Welcome back. It's Stud Muffin 1986, and we're doing another look at two new tanks that have now hit the store, the T28 Defender and the IS3 Defender. I've had these from the time when they both originally came out. Good tanks. I do have both of them, so I do have replays. I'm going to be going over some stats, just my thoughts on the tank, whether they're worth it, if you're trying to make a decision between one or the other. I honestly think they're good tanks. However, I personally like the T28 Defender a little more than the IS3 Defender. I can't remember, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but I want to say the IS3 Defender was a little stronger when it first came out. I don't know if the reload was, but I have no idea. I actually can't remember, but they're both good tanks. So we're gonna go in and dive in and take a look at both of these. So first, starting off with the T28 Defender. The funny thing about this tank is it's a tank destroyer, but in my personal opinion, I play with it more like a heavy tank. If you go in and take a look at this thing, and I have just some stats here, and maybe we could just do a quick synopsis of both T28 Defender and IS3 Defender here. But when you go in and you look at both of these tanks, you can see here the T28 Defender has a better DPM / rate of fire. The penetration is slightly better than the IS3 Defender, and then but basically what you're trading off here is that the T28 Defender doesn't have as good of armor, but it has a better DPM, and the IS3 Defender has better maneuverability, and the IS3 Defender is a little slower. So it's a little bit of a trade-off. Even though I personally, like I had mentioned at the beginning of the video, is that I like the T28 Defender over the IS3 Defender. Like, I would choose to rather play the T28 Defender over the IS3 Defender. However, if you look at the player average stats of performance, the IS3 Defender actually is performing slightly better than the T28 Defender. So I don't know, maybe don't necessarily take my word for it that the T28 Defender is the preference of tank, so to say. Maybe it's the IS3 Defender according to these stats, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. Both good. Now, the thing about the Defender universe, so to say, is they have an auto-loading cannon. Well, I guess I shouldn't say the Defender universe, because there is some other ones that don't. But anyway, for these two in particular, the auto-loading ability is a little different, and you got to get used to it compared to your standard heavy tanks, where you have the consistent reload that's the same, pumping out those rounds. Whereas this one, you get the ability to get up in an enemy's face, unload those 3 shells, but you gotta get yourself in a place where you either have protection or some sort of cover that you're confident enough in, so you don't have the enemy just completely coming in and just wasting you, because you do have that longer reload when trying to reload your entire magazine all over again. Whereas in between shots, that's where it can be a bit powerful. Now, the nice thing about the auto-loading ability is the enemy doesn't have any idea whether sometimes you're on a full clip reload or whether you just shot around and you're about to shoot your other one fairly soon, unless they see you shoot all 3 of your rounds, then they'll know, okay, they're on the longer reload, here's our chance. So just something to keep in mind when you are playing these tanks and just being a little careful. So the T28 Defender, going in and looking at, just like I said, the maneuverability here, I mean, it's not bad when you play. I mean, you could definitely feel and notice if you have both of these tanks that it is a little, a bit like on the slower side compared to the IS3 Defender. But I don't really have a problem with it. The armor can be quite trollish. Especially if you're coming across tier 7s. Higher tier tanks, you want to be a bit more on the careful side. The armor isn't going to protect you a ton against higher tier tanks. And like tier tanks, like heavies and destroyers, you got to be careful those heat and APCR rounds. The armor, it can be good. And when looking at the IS3 Defender, you can see it has a very similar feel to the IS3 in the game. And the other thing that you'll notice is the standard IS3 in the game compared to the IS3 Defender has a greater DPM. Now, like I said, you do have that trade-off where you have the 3-round clip where you can unload a little faster with that, and then you have your longer reload for the entire clip. So there's trade-offs here. There really is. So going in, looking at the armor of both of them, I touched on the T28 Defender. Looking at the IS3 Defender, you have that pike nose. Now, it doesn't look so much like you have as good of armor. You'll see in the replays, I am bouncing a bit more than what this shows. So maybe the replays can help you get a good feel or a better feel on how this armor is when in a game. And so the armors for these tanks, I mean, are not bad. The IS3 Defender is going to feel very similar to the IS3 if you have that in the tank. The T28 Defender does have better armor compared to the T28 prototype. And like I had mentioned, the T28 prototype is more like a real TD, whereas the T28 Defender is honestly more like a heavy tank. The class, in my opinion, is a little misleading because the penetration's not, the penetration is more of a heavy rather than a destroyer. So we'll go into a couple replays here. Hopefully this helps your guys' decision with this. Like I said, my personal preference is the T28 Defender over the IS3 Defender. However, both good tanks, but according to player averages, the IS3 Defender does have, it looks like it is performing slightly better than the T28 Defender. So anyway, we'll go into a couple replays here. This is Stud Muffin 1986, and you guys stay cool and keep tanking.